Hi everyone. Today we're going to dive into the world of very delicate and fine hair. If you're someone that has hair that feels very lightweight and fragile especially, this video is for you. Fine hair needs specific care and specific products to have it looking its best. So we're going to talk about that. Let's get into it. The first thing you want to think about, obviously, is your shampoo and conditioner, and they're not all made equally. There are shampoos and conditioners that are absolutely designed for your fine, lightweight hair to cleanse it gently, remove all the oil and gunk, but then add a little lift and volume to it. And it does this by adding texture or kind of a coating to the hair that makes it feel thicker and adds a little grip to it so that you get those volumizing styles a little better out of it. My notes here, we've got a little bit in here. They add, what are those ingredients they add? Proteins, and polymers and even botanical extracts that coat the hair and give it just that little bit of a grip so you can get better styles out of it. So yeah, the shampoo and conditioner definitely makes a difference. Unless your hair is super dry and brittle and breaking, don't worry about heavy conditioning masks and things like that for your hair because it's going to weigh it down. Some of these shampoos are even designed to kind of create lift at your root. I'm not sure how that works, but they are out there and they do work. So you just got to kind of pay attention and look for something that works for you. There's so many brands. Now, you've all heard this before, but let's go over it again. When you're shampooing your hair, the shampoo is for your scalp and the conditioner is for the mid-length to ends where it's dry and tangly. So you're going to scrub your scalp with the shampoo once or twice, depending on how much it needs. If you're not washing very often, I always suggest 2 times. If you wash every day, then once is enough. You don't want to over dry it or overwork it. Rinse that out and then go through with your conditioner on the mid-length and ends. Try not to ball all your hair up, in the shampoo and that kind of thing, because that's just a lot of extra roughing it up that you might not have to do. And if your hair is delicate, it may cause breakage. Hair is definitely more delicate when it's wet. I feel like fine hair usually needs to be washed more often than like someone like me. I have super thick, I have coarse hair. I can go a week easy. Maybe a midweek dry shampoo in there. But if your hair is really fine and it tends to get oily and limp, daily washing might be what you need to do, or at least every other day to keep it floofy. That's my word, floofy. Now, like I just said, hair is very delicate when it's wet. And if it's already tends to be delicate, that's even more reason to be more dry. More careful. Try not to use like a towel and, dry it like that. Be very gentle with it. Use a wide tooth comb and a detangler. Your hair is made of keratin bonds. And when those keratin bonds get wet, they tend to get a little bit weaker. And so your hair will break, more easily. So I can't stress that enough. No stress on the hair. Besides the keratin bonds weakening, the hair shaft itself tends to swell with water, which tends to make it a little bit weaker and more susceptible to damage from friction, from your towel or raking through it with a brush real rough. And also when it's wet, it's more elastic. All hair has a little bit of elasticity to it. You'll see a lot of times your hairstylist will kind of pull on the hair to see kind of how healthy it is. But when it's wet, it stretches a little bit further. And the problem with that is it'll stretch beyond what it should. And then it's permanently damaged or weakened at that point because all those bonds have been stretched further than usually about, I think I read somewhere 30% more than it would if it was dry. So just be careful. Other than heat damage, roughing your hair up when it's wet can be a real problem for fine, delicate hair. And I know it's hard because it's also the type of hair that tangles easily. So it's important to get a good detangler. Now, I use detanglers in the shop, but whenever I'm doing a video like this, I like to kind of do the ChatGPT and the Google thing and find out what the best one is on the market because they're changing all the time. The formulas are changing, the brands are changing. And so I looked it up and the biggest selling one on the market right now, the one that's got the best reviews is the Amika It's by Amika, the Wizard Detangling Primer. And I'm going to put a link to that down below because I actually sell that brand in my online store. So if you want to try it out, I think I'm going to pick some up too and start trying it in the salon and see if it's all the hype. What I use in the salon now is I'll either use Pureology 21 Benefits, which everyone knows about that one. And then I also like the Brazilian Blowout Smoothing Serum, which makes a great detangler, but it's a little heavy for fine hair. So I think this Amika one might be a good one to try. And like I said, I'm going to pick some up to keep it in the salon, but I'll put the link down below. So if you want to try it at home, you certainly can. Now, of course, I can't harp on the heat problem enough, and I always tell people that watch your heat settings. Hair melts at 312 degrees. What is your, actually, I used to say 312, but then I think I read a thing that was 290 something. Anyway, if your heat stylers are cranked up to, 450, that's your problem. Okay, so don't melt your hair off with your heat tools. I know it's better to take the whole section and just do once rather than, at a higher heat, rather than turning down the heat and doing some, thinner sections. It might take a little longer, but it's going to save your hair. So the other thing, and this is something people don't think about. So you're trying to get that body, right? You got your mousse in, you got your root lift, and now you're going to blow dry. A lot of people have ceramic brushes, which are great for heat styling, but that ceramic part of the brush gets really, really hot. And I have seen this happen to a client of mine. She was holding it up like this and holding the blow dryer on it, to get that lift. That ceramic got so hot, her hair came off with the brush. So keep that in mind too. You don't think about the blow dryer getting that hot, but if you're holding it steady on a ceramic brush especially, you can cook that hair right off. So that's another thing you want to be careful of. All these things, right? Now, styling products, you think it's kind of common knowledge, but not always. You're going to stay away from heavy creams and oils and things like that on fine hair. You're going to use lightweight things like mousse and then maybe a texture spray, lightweight hairspray, things like that. You can use a root lift, which is usually like a directed mousse type thing to raise those roots up. And then a volumizing mousse, but stay away from the heavy stuff because you're causing it just to weigh it down. Even though, I know, like, for instance, I use Kevin Murphy thickening cream or it's a thickening lotion, and it's great. And it does thicken the strands, but it's also a cream. And I feel like it weighs the hair down a little bit. So there's kind of a plus and a minus. You just got to play with what works for you. But I would definitely stick with mousses and then maybe a texture spray after it's dry and styled. One that I like is from Kevin Murphy, and it's called Bedroom Hair, and I call it baby butt spray because it smells like baby powder. But it comes in a light blue can. I'll link all these below. But and it's a texture spray, but it also has got a little bit of hold to it. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I like to use that as a finishing product on my fine-haired gals because it gives them the lift, but it also kind of holds stuff in place so you don't have to have a texture spray and a hairspray. It also kind of almost works like a dry shampoo. It definitely has something in it that kind of dries things up too. So it's a nice product. And speaking of dry shampoo is your friend. If you feel like your hair is getting really dry because you're washing it every day, and sometimes that can create more oil production if, you're already oily and then you're washing it every day and your body's telling your hair that it needs more oil and it's a thing. Dry shampoo can be your friend. You don't want to go day after day after day with piling that on your scalp, but between washes, maybe at least one day with dry shampoo might get you by a little further. And my favorite one, and I've tried them all, but at this point, taking into effect that there's probably new things since I found this one, I love the Moroccan oil. It comes in a dark tones and a light tones. I tell you what, after 3 or 4 days into the week and my hair gets cut, your scalp even gets itchy. It's like, oh, I want to wash it, but I'm too lazy. I use that dry shampoo from Moroccan oil, and not only does my scalp not itch anymore, it's like I washed my hair. My hair is fuller. It smells nice. It styles wonderfully. So Moroccan oil is the one I love, and I will also link that below. Now, keeping your hair trimmed regularly is important too. I know it's hard when you're trying to grow it out, but hair grows a ½ an inch a month. So if you're going in every 6 months, if you're going in every 6 to 8 weeks, let's say 8 weeks, you go in every 8 weeks, your hair's grown an inch. and you take a 1/4 inch off. You're still gaining if your hair is growing and it's healthy. The problem is for those of you that come in with those stragglers and you're like, don't take my length. That's why your hair is breaking, because the split end starts at the bottom because it's been damaged with the towel or the heat or the brushing or whatever. It's delicate. So you've got a little split end. You might not even see it. That's working its way up the shaft. And then pretty soon it's breaking off at 3 or 4 inches. And then you get, you've got this perimeter, and then in the back, you've got these little wispies, so it's important to get regular haircuts about every 8 weeks, especially if you've got fine, delicate hair, so you can keep those ends nice and blunt and without the split ends. Another thing I see a lot are ponytail breaks. People that wear their hair up excessively in ponytail holders, whether that's a rubber band or whatever, and you're pulling it up tight and you got it in there, you're going to find that the hair underneath is shorter than all the rest of the hair because those delicate hairs at the nape get broken off in the ponytail when you're pulling it up. So that's something to think about too. I see that a lot where they'll come in and their perimeter is like this, and then there's this notch and it's real thin. And that notch is where those baby hairs are getting broken off in the ponytail holder. So keep that in mind too. It's better to use a clip, not pull it so tight, or maybe a soft, fluffy scrunchie. And don't do it every day, and try not to do it when it's wet. Now, I know everyone with fine hair, when they sit in the chair, I don't want layers. I want it to look thick. I don't want layers. A good stylist can give you some layers, but for motion, for that flow and motion that actually makes your hair appear thicker, especially if you're styling it. So don't always be afraid of layers. Talk to your stylist. Say, I don't want to look like I've got layers, but can we get some movement in my hair? And there's all kinds of ways we can do that without it looking like you've got layers. And then the biggest mistake I think happens, especially with maybe a new stylist that hasn't really done a lot of fine layered haircuts, is they start taking layers in, and then all that's left at the bottom is 3 hairs because these are all shorter. There's ways to do it that's not going to happen. So talk to your stylist, make sure they're comfortable with the idea of giving you some movement, not necessarily layers, and they can do that for you. Now let's just talk about being healthy, because your hair, skin, and nails are all affected by your overall health. Usually if I have someone sit in my chair and they're experiencing hair loss, or their hair's thinning, or their hair's breaking, first thing I start talking to them about what's going on in your life. It can be stress. It can be sudden weight loss, like you've gone on a diet and you're losing all this weight and you feel great, and all of a sudden your hair's falling out. It happens all the time. I've seen it with several clients, especially with these new, diet shots. I can't remember the name of them, Ozempic or whatever. That's something to think about. If you're losing weight rapidly, your body's going to revolt on you, and your hair, skin, and nails are going to take the brunt of it. And it's most noticeable in your hair and your nails. So keep that in mind. Don't panic, but it's probably because your body is just going through a big change. Just like when women have babies and all their hair falls out about 3 months later, because their body is suffering, kind of recouping from that major thing that happened. And it pulls all its energy. Kind of think of like you've got a battery in your body and it's running. And then all of a sudden there's a big problem. Well, that battery shoots all the power to deal with whatever, that is. And it shuts down other systems. I keep going back to Star Trek, like we got to shut off life support. But your body is focusing to deal with whatever issue is going on. And so hair, skin, and nails are the last one to get their share. And so you will see those suffer first. And it can be illness, diet. If you eat like crap and you're unhealthy, don't expect your hair to be lustrous and healthy either, because again, diet, what you're putting in is going to come out in your hair, skin, and nails. So there's a lot more to it than just what you put on it topically. 9 times out of 10, when people are having hair issues, other than heat damage, I'll be like, okay, what's going on? You're going through a divorce, or, different things can be happening that are going to cause those issues with your hair. So just keep that in mind. So that's about it. I just wanted to touch base with this because I feel like, honestly, a lot of you come in and you're like, oh, my hair is just so wimpy. And they look at mine and it's thick and crazy. But you know what? The majority of people have fine, delicate hair. It's the few of us that have this Mufasa mane that we bitch about too, because it's so much to take care of. Not that I'm complaining. I love my hair, but if you have fine, delicate hair, you are not alone. But I think there's just not enough information out there about how to take care of it properly. And a lot of people maybe don't have time to go to the stylist, or maybe can't afford to go to a stylist. And so they're just out there on their own. And I want to be able to offer this information to help them out.